Hello, civil engineers. Welcome back to my channel. So I thought of sharing few of the interview experiences that I had in my professional career. So the most important thing to remember here is when I applied for this structural engineer role, I was actually working on a site. Now, many people they say that I am working at the site as a site engineer, even though I have MTech. But whenever I apply to structural engineer or design engineer roles, I don't get shortlisted. So that you can get to know how was the experience, how do you need to prepare for interview, what kind of questions were asked, and most importantly, like how did I apply to jobs and how did I get the interview calls. Because this is one of the most challenging part or the most difficult part for civil engineering or structural engineering job seekers is they don't get interview calls. So I'll be discussing, and again, this will be a series where I'll be discussing all my previous, interview experiences in the past 7 to 8 years, so that it can become a learning experience for you. So the one of the interview which I can recall is I had given one interview with Khatib and Alami. So K&A, these are the structural consultant, very reputed. They have their office at the Indiranagar. So my interview was scheduled with them on 3rd of September 2019. I'll be even attaching a screenshot of the location and even the from my photos when I had attended. So yeah, the date was 3rd September 2019. So first and foremost, how did I get the interview call for this was I had seen their post on LinkedIn. Some HR, or I think the person who is hiring directly, they had posted that Khatib Alami is a structural consultant. They're looking for structural engineers. I think that was with an experience of 2 to 4 years, if I remember. So they had posted on LinkedIn. I had applied sending my resume via email. So that's how I had applied, and I had got shortlisted for interview also. So my interview was at the Indiranagar office. So I'll be pinning the location also of Khatib Alami Indiranagar office. So once I reached, so these are the few of the photos that I had taken. Very beautiful office. I was very happy. Now, the most important thing to remember here is when I applied for this structural engineer role, I was actually working on a site. Now, many people they say that I am working at the site as a site engineer, even though I have MTech. But whenever I apply to structural engineer or design engineer roles, I don't get shortlisted. So it all depends on how you position yourself, what you write in your resume, most importantly. So I was working at site, even though I was shortlisted for a structural engineering interview at Khatib Alami, which is a reputed consultant that does a lot of Middle East projects, airports, highways, infrastructure, etc. So very good consultancy. So how, even if you're working at site, if you're having MTech in structures, it depends on how you place yourself, how you position yourself, and what you write in the resume. It is not only about, please understand, it is not only about what you write in the resume. Even if you are working at site, but if you have MTech, you should learn the concepts, design concepts. So what I did was, even though I was site, I used to learn the design processes. For example, a simple building design, and in StatPro, I learned on my own. So that is the most important part. Even if you're working at the site, if you want to apply to a structural engineering roles, you should know the design process, you should know the design life cycle, you should know the design software, at least one or two, like ETABS or StatPro. So this is the basic requirement. So I was working at site, I applied for a structural engineer role, and I got interview call also. So my interview was scheduled on 3rd of September 2019. Now, Mr. Harsha was the interviewer for my role. I will try to pin his profile if I find on LinkedIn. So I remember very clearly his name was Harsha. He was a senior structural engineer at Khatib Alami. So now, what are the type of questions did they ask me? So they asked a variety of questions. My interview was around 1 hour or 1 hour 10 minutes. So it was a very good interview. So what are the type of questions asked? So he when I entered the building, when there is from the reception, they let me in. They allowed to sit me in a room. So Harsha was an interviewer. He brought 2 blank A4 sheets and along with himself. Then he gave to me. So then we started the interview. So first he asked about my background. So I told like I'm MTech in structures and currently I'm working with Bangalore Metro. So then he gave the blank A4 sheets, and he drew some portal frames, some beams, cantilever containers, and he asked me to draw bending moment and shear force diagrams. So this was the very first and the basic question. Then he asked about, say, a couple of basic questions like what is development length, other basic civil engineering knowledge about concrete, steel, etc. Then I vividly remember he drew a retaining wall. A retaining wall he drew, and he asked me to place the reinforcement. Now, again, you have to remember these are the type of questions they ask. So where the reinforcement will place, where the primary reinforcement will come, where the distribution reinforcement will come. As a retaining wall, you know, it will have a toe, it will have a heel, then there will be a stem. So based on the bending from where the earth pressure is acting, so reinforcement properly you have to detail. So he drew a retaining wall and he asked me to place the reinforcement. This was again one of the questions. Again, the other questions he asked about the design cycle. For example, how do you design the building? How do you start? From start to finish, he asked me the entire process. He asked me what software did you use, StatPro and my experience. Then I also remember, and this I want to tell to all structural engineers who want to appear for design interview, your industry awareness will be checked 102%. What is industry awareness? There are some hot topics which you should definitely know. For example, in the interview, Mr. Harsha asked me about clauses from the IS 456 relating to the flat slabs. Now, just pause for a moment and I want you to think, why did he ask this? Because you have to understand flat slab is a controversial topic. If you are not aware, there are some codal provisions in IS 456. Why did he ask about flat slab? The reason why it is controversial is flat slab are not allowed as a structural system in higher seismic zones. So this was the reason why he asked me provisions of flat slab in as per IS 456. Now, what provisions did he ask? He asked me how the flat slab is designed. He asked me what is the corner strip, what is the middle strip, what are the reinforcement we provide, how do we design flat slab, what are the different types like slab with a drop panel, without column head, with column head, why is column head provided. So there are so many questions related to flat slabs, and he asked me reinforcement percentage and detailing aspect of the flat slab. So industry awareness will be definitely checked. So when I say industry awareness, civil and structural engineers should definitely prepare. If you want some other example of industry awareness, so they can ask about what is soil structure interaction, very important. What is soil springs? Again, if you are say a bridge engineer, they might ask you what is rail structure interaction. If you are a structural engineer, again, how steel, what are the how do you design connection design? So all these are the industry hot topics which you should know. Industry hot topic means these are the practical things which are going on in the industry which you definitely know. For example, shear connection, moment connection, difference, and all of these are the hot topics. So my interview was very exhaustive. So he, as I said, he also asked me to solve something. He gave some problems, like for example, footing design, a slab design he gave. So like this, the interview was. So the interview was very exhaustive. So the result of the interview was I was not selected. Obviously, the kind of questions that were asked, I was not prepared. Now, the reason why I was not prepared was I was at site and parallelly learning design. I had M.Tech structure, so that preparation was not up to the mark. So if you're preparing for structural engineering, you need to prepare all the things. Like question can come even on software, effective lengths, like how do you calculate, how do you assign effective lengths in say StatPro, ELX, ELY, ELZ, or it can come some in the ETABs also if you're using ETAB. So you have to prepare all the things. So always remember in interview preparation, if you are applying for a structural engineer role, there will be some questions that will be basics. For example, bending moment, shear force diagram, shear stress diagram, questions related to materials, concrete, steel, yield strength, all of these. So these are the basics. Along with basics, they will ask even questions which are related to the role. For example, if they are hiring for a structural engineer with steel experience, you should definitely prepare all the steel questions. What are moment connection? What are steel connections? What is the difference between shear? What is the IS 800 clauses about everything, connection design, steel in general. So like this, if they are hiring about say someone with a transmission design experience or anyone with a bridge engineer, so some questions will be related to that role and some questions will be based on industry awareness. As I said, the hot topic, soil structure interaction, or it could be anything. So how do you design building, say analysis. So what majorly we do is we just use the software for analysis purpose. Then after analyzing, how we extract forces, how do we design. So all of these questions will be definitely asked. So if you are preparing, so you have to prepare all of this. So this was my experience with Khatib Alami interview experience. Questions were very good and I loved meeting people. Mr. Harsha was very good. Even though I was not selected in the interview, but I got to know what are the type of questions a reputed consultant asks. So that was very important because, as I said, Khatib and Alami does Middle East projects, infrastructure, airports and all. So I wanted to know what is the level they expect from us. So this is again most important point. If you want to know what level industry asks from you, the only way you can find out that is by attending as many as interviews possible. So this was, the short video of my interview experience with Khatib Al Alami. I'll be keep sharing my interview experiences. If you are interested, do comment. That is the only way how I get to know if you are interested in hearing about my interview experiences. So yeah, till then, subscribe to this channel and yeah, see you soon.